Hey guys, it's Mike here, and in this video, I'm going to be reviewing Young Justice Season 2. As I said in my previous review, which you can check out here, Young Justice is one of my favorite DC animated series. Season 1 was a good start for this series, and Season 2 was an even bigger continuation, which ups the ante and raises the stakes in a big way. However, despite its quality, this series was still cancelled, being removed for a pretty trivial reason. But in spite of that, its fan base persisted, which resulted in it being brought back for a third season, which will be out soon on DC's streaming service, or may already be by the time you watch this. Now, as with before, there will be spoilers in this review, so if you haven't seen Young Justice Season 1 or Season 2 yet, then I recommend watching them first before checking this out. But without further ado, let's get into this review. Now, the plot of this season follows from the events of last season's finale. There it was revealed that several members of the Justice League were controlled by Vandal Savage for 16 hours that they couldn't account for. 5 years have passed since then, but our heroes still don't know what happened during those events. Meanwhile, some big events are taking place that an evil shadow organization known as the Light are involved in, such as the invasion of an alien species known as the Proletarians, who are teleporting to Earth and bringing other aliens and technology with them. Upon capturing one of these aliens, the team discovers that during the 16 hours the League had attacked a planet known as Rimbor, and declared the presence of the Earth to the galaxy, telling all civilizations to beware. As a result, this leads to key members of the Justice League, including Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, and Green Lantern, to go to Rimbor in order to defend themselves in a trial. However, as they leave, things begin to unfold that are even bigger than before, as an alien empire known as the Reach appears on Earth and begins to kidnap humans to experiment on them. This is in order to learn more about the metagene, which causes humans to develop superpowers, much like mutants in Marvel. However, as the Justice League is about to go public, the Reach appear before the world in order to sway them to their side. They also begin to point the finger at the Justice League and Young Justice for their covert operations. What's worse is that the Reach only increases their activity and begins producing a means to slowly turn humanity into docile servants. Together, Young Justice and the remaining Justice League members have to fight this threat to stop the Earth from falling into the hands of perhaps the greatest evil of all. So this season has a lot going on, with more characters and more subplots than in Season 1. Everything that came before this was set up for what would happen here and the true intentions of the Light. As a result, this season goes to darker places, and is more mature than the first, with real consequences. The kid gloves are off, so to speak, and it shows here. Interestingly, this season is shorter than Season 1 at only 20 episodes, yet it uses that time well. The season is also a lot more plot focused as a result. Now, being 5 years later, our team is in a much different place than before. New members have joined and some old prominent members have left. Much of what happens in this season is based around subplots involving subgroups within the larger team. So let's get into that now. Let's start with Robin, who has now become his solo identity of Nightwing. In this season, he plays Batman's role from Season 1 as the one who gives out missions and oversees the team. And now that Aqualad left, he's now the team leader, which is in line with their intentions from last season. Throughout the season, he has to keep some big secrets from the team. This is due to a conspiracy that existed between Aqualad and himself to infiltrate the Light. Basically what happened is that between the two seasons, Aqualad learned that Black Manta, the Aquaman villain, was his father. After his ex-lover from Atlantis died, Kaldur was given the choice to join Black Manta, which he did. This was in order to infiltrate the Light, which his father had become a member of. However, only a select few people knew of his true goal. So throughout the season, Aqualad attacks the team and leads missions to help him gain the trust of the Light and his father. I also like how they established Kaldur's relationship with his father in this season. You can tell that he loves his son and wants what's best for him, even if it's worse for everyone else on the planet. Eventually, this conspiracy adds new members in the form of Artemis and Kid Flash, who had actually retired from being heroes at this point and were living together as a couple. During one of their battles, Artemis Artemis appears to be killed by Aqualad, but we learn that this was actually part of their plot by having Artemis go undercover as Tigress, a supposed assassin who would help Kaldur in his mission. I liked where they went with her and Kid Flash in this season as well, which I think was a logical evolution of their relationship from season 1. However, this causes problems as Artemis's family swears revenge after her death and tries to kill Aqualad and Black Manta, and additionally some members of the Young Justice doing their best as well. This additionally causes tensions among the team when they discover the truth and Aqualad is placed into a bad position after a run-in with Miss Martian, but nonetheless it ends up being the right course of action come the end. The next big subplot of this season revolves around newcomer Blue Beetle. When the previous Blue Beetle was killed, Jaime Reyes, a normal teenager, was found by the Blue Scarab which integrated with his body, making him the new Blue Beetle. The Scarab is an advanced artificial intelligence that forms a robotic armor around Reyes. It also speaks to him in his mind and gives him suggestions of what to do, kind of like Iron Man or Spider-Man's robotic suit. Although this allows him to generate advanced weaponry and it can take over his body to fight for him. Reyes never wanted to be the Blue Beetle and feels inadequate compared to the previous Beetle, and at different points in the story he attempts to have his Scarab removed. This escalates after Bart Allen, the Flash's grandson, comes back in time from 40 years in the future. A speedster like the Flash, Bart Allen, otherwise known as Impulse, comes from a dystopian future where the Flash is dead and Blue Beetle is the villain who helped conquer the Earth for the Reach. He comes back in time to stop Blue Beetle from turning evil, as well as saving the Flash from his death. Interestingly, the metahuman who killed Flash, called Neutron, was the one who helped Impulse travel back in time. I think Impulse was an entertaining addition to the team, and the time travel element added an interesting twist, as well as some real stakes. Despite being younger, he's already faster than Kid Flash, and is even able to speak at super speed with Flash, which no one around them can understand. I did find it odd that Wally was portrayed as slower than both of them, when he's been said to be faster in other adaptations, but I guess that was in service of Season 2's finale. As the team continues to face off with the Reach, they encounter the Reach's enforcer named Black Beetle, who is a member of their species with his own Scarab. However, he's a lot bigger, buffer, and more sadistic. The Scarabs were actually developed by the Reach themselves. The team also encounters a Green Beetle, who is a Martian that at first appears to be a good guy. He offers to help Blue Beetle fix his Scarab so the AI will no longer have an influence on Reyes, but he actually reprograms it to serve the Reach. This leads to Reyes becoming their human spokesman on Earth, and making them seem like they're a force for good. However, in time it's discovered by the team that there's an ancient purification ritual that dates back thousands of years to when the Blue Scarab first landed on Earth. They used this to free both Blue and Green Beetle from its influence, stopping Blue Beetle from becoming the evil force from Impulse's future. Another subplot of the season revolves around Miss Martian and Superboy. Although they were a couple in Season 1, they split up during the 5-year time skip. This is because of the fact that Megan has been using her powers to take people's memories, which destroys their mind in the process. She believed that this was fine due to them being enemies. However, due to Superboy's past, he was against this. This led to Megan trying to manipulate Superboy's mind to make him forget that he was against her methods. However, he was able to tell what she was doing and left her. After this, Megan started dating the new Aqualad, Lagoon Boy, who is a different tribe of Atlanteans, appearing more like an amphibian and who has the ability to grow in size, along with other Atlantean abilities. I'm pretty sure he was inspired by the creature from the Black Lagoon, which is pretty cool. Superboy this season is more in control of his emotions now, and has a better relationship with Superman, who sees him as a brother, and even calls him Kon-El, with El being their Kryptonian family name. However, he's still dealing with some of the effects of his creation, such as how he'll never really change in appearance. Also, upon learning about Kaldur's mission, he grows angry with Nightwing due to his lack of trust in the team. This is even worse because of what happens with Miss Martian. After believing that Artemis was killed, Megan encounters Aqualad and destroys his mind. However, she realizes too late what was happening, and this leads to her being afraid to use her powers anymore. However, she's kidnapped by Tigress and then slowly repairs Aqualad's mind, which causes Megan to have an epiphany about her place in the world. And unfortunately for Lagoon Boy, this results in him being dumped. But hey, there's plenty of fish in the sea. Oh wait, There's also a subplot with Red Arrow, whose life is a mess after discovering that he was a clone and is still searching for the original Speedy. It's revealed that he has a daughter with Cheshire, and the two of them team up to find Speedy. However, after they finally find him, Speedy wakes up and is angry that his closest friends gave up on looking for him. He then attempts to kill Lex Luthor. However, Luthor outsmarts him and instead gives Speedy an advanced robotic arm. He then becomes Arsenal, who joins the team, but eventually splits up from them when their ideals and choices of action conflict. Afterward, he teams up with a group of teenagers who were kidnapped by the Reach and experimented on. This led to them gaining superpowers. This team is also full of cameos from earlier DC series like Super Friends, with Apache Chief, and of course Static from Static Shock. I was a fan of Static Shock as a kid, so his inclusion here was cool. Their group ends up working with Lex Luthor, and he's great in this season as well. At first it appeared that he was working with the Reach, but then he uses this new young team to further his goals and the goals of the Light. There are also some minor roles filled by other heroes, with the best likely being Beast Boy, another prominent member of the Teen Titans, who in this version gained his powers when Miss Martian gave him a blood transfusion in the last season. Although unfortunately his mother was killed after she helped aid the team in foiling the plan of Queen Bee. Getting into the villains, we have the Reach, who are an empire of conquerors who came to the Earth through a deal that they made with the Light. Their primary focus is to learn more about the metagene in order to replicate it and create more powerful soldiers. Part of their plan involves them creating vegetation, and even a soft drink called Reach that contains ingredients that bring out powers and make the masses more subservient. They even have a cheesy commercial for it and everything. They also attempt to sway the Earth's governments through fake diplomacy. However, soon we discover that they were being manipulated by the Light all along. Speaking of the Light, they plan to use the Reach to aid in their greater goal of enslaving the Earth and studying the human metagene. However, as time goes on, the two groups become at odds. The Light, as always, has even bigger plans in mind than what they're letting on, which we see more of in the finale. Then there's Mongul, a powerful ousted dictator who controls a moon-sized weapon called Warworld, which is basically his own Death Star. He plans to conquer the galaxy and is pushed into attacking Earth by Vandal Savage, due to the presence of the Reach on the planet. I've always thought that Mongul was a cool villain, and they even had him voiced by the legendary Keith David, which makes him even cooler. He puts up a good fight but is eventually defeated, and Vandal Savage takes control of Warworld, which he planned all along. I also liked how this season had a character called G. Gordon Godfrey, who is an anti-alien, anti-Justice League TV pundit, kind of like Alex Jones. It interjects another layer of realism into the show, especially as we see how he influences people against the League, even supporting the Reach at one point. However, we soon discover that he's actually an agent from Apocalypse. He's also voiced by Tim Curry, who makes everything he's in better by default. Getting into the more technical aspects, the action and animation are once again good here, improving from the first season in a number of ways. The writing is at times still a bit iffy, but overall the story is more plot-focused and less episodic. I'd say that the biggest cons of this season are that there's probably too many characters, as they introduce several factions of heroes and villains, and most of them had their own subplots going on. Some of them also seem to be dropped as the season continued. It makes some sense due to this season having less episodes, but I'd say that was definitely the biggest con, especially considering how it ends. But that's not really a problem with the season itself. But speaking of the ending, let's get into it now. At a meeting between the Light and the Reach, Aqualad reveals that the Light has been secretly manipulating the Reach all along. The team then enters the meeting, which leads to a fight between all parties. Biggest among these fights is Kaldur versus Manta, with Kaldur winning and much of the Light being defeated. Afterward, Aqualad is reappointed the leader of the team. The Justice League is convicted of their crimes on Rimbor, which is then overturned when they realize that the court is crooked, and offer them more opportunities for profit in the future. Meanwhile, the defeated Reach attempts to destroy the Earth to cover up their conquest. The heroes split up and use technology from Lex Luthor to disarm their weapons. However, a last device goes critical, which leads to the three Flashes running together in order to neutralize it. Unfortunately, due to his slower speed, which is something that was established earlier on, Kid Flash is forced to sacrifice himself. The Reach then leaves the Earth to stand trial for their crimes, and Lex Luthor becomes an ambassador, which is possibly creating a path for President Luthor, which has been interesting in past versions to say the least. Nightwing decides to leave the team, and Impulse becomes the new Kid Flash. At the end, it's explained that from now on, the Young Justice team will operate from the Watchtower, the same headquarters as the Justice League. This gesture shows their progression as a team. Once they were sidekicks, and now they're standing side by side with the greatest heroes in their world. As the season comes to an end, Vandal Savage brings the War World to Apocalypse, revealing that he's actually been working with Darkseid all along. And that was where Young Justice ended, with the series being cancelled. It was a big cliffhanger that went unresolved for years, while fans of the series were outraged by its cancellation. And so audiences waited for years, until finally Season 3, otherwise known as Young Justice Outsiders, was announced. With it coming out soon, I can only hope that it delivers on what the ending of Season 2 set up, as well as living up to the quality of its predecessors. Darkseid is one of my favorite comic book villains, so I'd like to see him done well and get a good payoff to this ending. Of course, time will tell, but I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. I'm going to give Young Justice Season 2 an 8.5 out of 10. So what did you guys think of Young Justice Season 2? Also, are you looking forward to Season 3? Let me know down below. And if you're new to this channel, then make sure to subscribe and enable notifications so that you can see all of my content right away when it comes out. And make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.